Madam Chair, I want to call my amendment to protect the bipartisan debt limit deal. And with that, I want to say to both of you that I think that what you have done in your leadership to restore the appropriations process is commendable, and it's far much needed, and it's long overdue. The bills that we vote on today are a statement to what we can achieve when we put partisanship aside and work together in a bipartisan way to address the major challenges that's facing our great country. And as you know, I've long called for return to regular order to pass our appropriations bills on time, as our reliance on continuing resolutions costs billions of dollars and necessary adds to the deficit. It's been incredibly encouraging to see the majority of this committee's spending bills be voted out on a unanimous or near unanimous basis, including today's. In addition to expressing my gratitude for the work of the chair and vice chair, I want to acknowledge the debt ceiling deal that was executed between President Biden and Speaker McCarthy, which included budgetary top lines that are roughly consistent with my call to cap spending of 1% each year. I was proud to join 62 of my Senate colleagues, many of you are sitting here today, that supported that, 314 of our friends in the House, and representing the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Despite many positives contained within that deal, one thing that we have learned over the last weeks is that chock full of budget gimmicks, including $25 billion in rescissions for mandatory spending and $21 billion in reallocated IRS funding. I want to do this in all due respect. Unfortunately, it looks like yet another gimmick is being pursued, this time outside of the purview of the debt ceiling agreement, right here in our own committee. The deal will add another $13.7 billion to 5 of the committee's spending bills, including $1.35 billion to the state and foreign operations bill. Now, make no mistake, these are additional funds above the agreed upon the 302Bs. This is above $13.7 billion. It's just plain wrong. It takes us off the promising path that we have started on to get our fiscal house back in order. Let me remind all of you, for 21 straight years, the United States government has spent more money than it took in. 21 years in a row, deficit spending. There's not one person sitting in this room that can operate that way. Not one business in America can operate with a deficit for 21 years, spending more than they take in, but yet we do it with no recourse whatsoever. Just a few things. First 220 years of our existence of a country, we accumulated about $10 trillion. We're at $32.5 trillion right now. We've done more in 20 years than was done in the first 220, and we're not batting an eye at it. We're not trying at all to slow it down. And let me give you a little bit of this. In 2001, we had $5.8 trillion of federal debt, 54.8% of our GDP. We were on a trajectory to be debt-free by 2006. That didn't happen. In 2011, we had $14.8 trillion, 95.5%. Today, we're at 32.5 trillion. We're at 124% of GDP. Not since World War II have we seen these kind of figures. We were fighting to survive. It was survival then. This is all what we have selected to do. There's no reason for us to be in this type of shape. And there's no way we're going to get ourselves out of it by doing what we're doing today. Another 13.7 trillion. And it won't happen. I can't even believe it. In the same decade, discretionary spending, the very thing Congress and the White House looked to control through the Fiscal Responsibility Act, grew by 50%. Mandatory spending was $2 trillion. We're up to $4 trillion mandatory spending. Went from 1.3 to 1.7 in discretionary, non-discretionary spending. It's unbelievable. And we just keep doing it because everything we have spoken about today, everything we voted on is much needed, I'm sure. But I can tell you, my grandfather told me, he says, Joe, he says, I can tell you one thing. Unmanaged debt will lead you to make cowardly decisions, and we're making cowardly decisions today. Our ability to be bipartisan is because we spend more money. We just want to spend more money. So that makes us bipartisan. That's not what we're here to do. We are not sent here to do this. And someone's got to be thinking about the future. We're looking at over this year, here will be over $800 billion in interest. And they're going to go up another 0.25% at least. No one's talking a thing about it. We'll be spending more on interest than we do on national defense. And if we did our budget, the reason I'm so encouraged what you're doing, trying to do all the 12 bills by September 30th and get a budget, give you an example. I've been told by the military, and I think Senator Graham would know this as well, if we do our job on time, there's as much as a 5% spending that they would have more spending. That's giving them another $44 billion that's already in 880. More spending power of $44 billion and not cost us another penny. Just do our job on time. The people should, and we said there's no budget, no pay. There's a reason for that. We shouldn't be paid if we're causing additional costs to the people of our country and putting our future generations in more debt that they can't carry. I just sooner or later, we're going to have to pay the piper. And we won't do it. It doesn't seem until we hit a crisis. That crisis is going to be when people lose confidence. We're being threatened to have the reserve currency of the world being the U.S. dollar right now. We're being threatened. It's the greatest tool we have as a country to be a superpower. When they lose confidence that they cannot rely on their money being safe in U.S. Treasury bonds, we got problems, serious problems. We know we got China, we put restrictions, and we put on China, we've got Russia, we've got Iran, we got North Korea, we got Brazil playing back and forth in footsies with them. Other countries are talking about it. But when we basically self-inflict the wounds of more debt than we can carry and more confidence that we can build, just like any other investment that you would make, that you make every day, you want a return on that investment, and people want to make sure the money's safe. I don't think anybody's running SVB Bank anymore. I just don't think that's happening. I would hope that you would think what we're doing here today, and I would hope that we would come to an understanding that we have got to be responsible for our own financial house. We're sent here to do for each of our representatives in this Senate and in the Congress and basically all the constituents that we have around this great country of ours. And for that, Madam Chair, you've demonstrated consistent bipartisan support for opposing poison pills and adhering to the spending limits established by the Fiscal Responsibility Act. I'm sure that my amendment would be a poison pill, and I'm going to withdraw my amendment. I would hope that you all would think about the financial crisis that we're in and facing. Thank you.
Thank you.